What's good, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome back to the Water Boys channel. As today, I'm going to give you kind of a week's wrap up of anything the Chiefs related news. But before diving into any of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I will keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chiefs related throughout the offseason, and of course diving back into the draft and regular season as well. But without further ado, let's dive right into this video. So first thing I want to dive into that happened last week, and it's basically the main thing that's been going on throughout this offseason to kick off. Even though we still got the Super Bowl upon us, there's going to be a lot of coaching changes throughout the NFL. There's going to be coaches becoming head coaches. There's going to be a lot of turnover throughout the whole league. In KC, they didn't have turnover, but they're making kind of positional group changes as well. And of course, the main name that we're focused on, and everyone's going to be focused on throughout this offseason, is Eric Bieniemy. And now he had an interview with the Saints. It was an 8-hour interview, and unfortunately, he didn't get the job. It's kind of wild that looking up at I guess you could call it a stat line now, because that's basically what it's become. Is in the last 3 years, actually last 4 years, he's had 15 interviews and struck out on all of them. And that's like bizarre to hear as well. And then also too, to an extensive point, even with the Saints, like I really thought if there was a position for him to get, it would be that job. Just due in fact as well, like they hired a guy who's already in-house, so that says how weird this process is. And even if you go to Houston as well, them hiring Lovie Smith, that's a great hire, I think, in my eyes, because Lovie Smith can turn a culture around as well. But is he going to be a long-term answer? We'll find in the future. But 2 head coaching vacancies that were the very last ones available, and then they turned to in-house, you could tell something just went horribly wrong, where they didn't get their guy, things fell through, they didn't execute the way they wanted to, and then they just settled. But for me with this as well, is why I think the Saints failed hugely on this, is because I think you would have had Dennis Allen regardless. Like, I think he would have stayed and been your D coordinator, and you could have had Eric Bieniemy come be your coach, switch up that offense, and, be good. Because let's be frank about it, the thing that struggles with the Saints right now is their offense. They're not what they used to be at all. They're like a life of themselves whatsoever. They don't have anything clicking. And for the fact, too, with now the news of Alvin Kamara, we don't even know if he's going to be a Saint next year. We don't even know if he's going to be in the league next year, let alone that. Their main focal point on offense, and doesn't seem like Michael Thomas is going to be there. You don't know who their quarterback is. It's their offense looks like lost in the woods for good. And you might want to bring someone who can help mold it and change it around as well. Like, if you're going to have a rebuild on offense, you could do it with a new coach as well, who can tool and figure things out on his own with the offense. But instead, you hired a defensive guy. Nothing against Dennis Allen whatsoever, but I don't know who he's going to bring in as OC. I don't know how things are going to change. But you could have Bieniemy and you could have Dennis Allen, who already runs a great defense. That's the way the Saints were already contenders for the playoffs, was because their defense kept them in every game. And it's going to be hard for them to do it again next year because, one, like I said, the Kamara thing, no Mike Thomas again, quarterback issues, but let alone cap issues as well. You're going to lose another big piece in your left tackle, Tremont Armstead, one of the best left tackles in the league. He probably won't come back as well. Like, that's huge. And then the defenses could be taking hits because you got to find a way. You're $70 million above the cap. So you're going to have to trim off some fat somewhere to get back to the cap, and you're not going to be spending a lot of money. So it's going to be interesting to see. I just think it was a wrong call. Like, I feel like it would have been perfect if you had Bieniemy build his offense, see if it works. Not saying it's going to work or not, but I don't know what Dennis Allen's going to bring to the offense. But we'll have to see what he brings. And then it's just crazy. Like, the fact that Bieniemy can't get a shot, and then you got social media, fans, or whatever, saying that maybe he's just bad at interviews and things like that. And I can get that to an extent. Like, someone struggle with interviews and all that. But, man, 15? And then it's also another thing, too. Like, struggling with interviews is one thing, but you were with the Saints for 8 hours. 8 hours is a whole shift for someone's workday. That means you got 2 breaks. You got a lunch. Like, you got to enjoy time with them. It's like, if you had lunch and all that, it's like, I don't see how that's a bad interview. Like, they would have cut that shit off short. and try to, not let it linger on. But then again, I don't know how interviews go in the NFL or in the front offices. I don't know how they handle or approach things. Maybe they didn't like him. I don't know. I mean, of course, they didn't hire him. But at the end of the day, to have something that long, it's basically a waste of time for both sides, because it's like you're selling a dream that wasn't even there, and that's really unfortunate. And now we have to dive into as well, is like, does he become Kansas City's offensive coordinator next year as well? Because I can see it both sides as well. Like, come back for one more year, do what you've been doing, and see if you get another crack at it again as well. And then I can see from the standpoint as well, it's like, did he hit his peak in KC? And that's it, because you can see the offense was at a lot of standstills and stuck at a lot of times as well. And then the league, I don't want to say figured them out, but it's also too, they had to find new tricks and ways to adjust to what the defenses was showing them. And they did later on in the year as well, which I thought would have helped them a lot, because I think that's huge. Like, someone figures out what you're doing, you adjusted, you were efficient with it. But hey, I don't know. But I think for him and KC, I think it's best for both sides to mutually expand. Because if Bieniemy could prove he could be a good OC somewhere else, and his offense is in the top 10 again, like, it'll be best he gets another head coaching gig. Or if he wants to get a college head coaching gig and prove he can do it in the NFL as well. But I don't know. It just looks like him staying in Kansas City is not going to get him that job. And as well for KC too. It's like they look like they need like a fresh start, like something new in there as well. Now, I don't know who that could be. I say fresh start, and people mention, hey, bring Matt Nagy back and he was a good coordinator, but that's not a fresh start in my mind. It's a safe bet if you want to put him in there for 1 year. But Andy Reid likes to groom his own people too. And I would go back with another familiar face, but he was never OC as well. But it would give him his chance again, and an actual legit chance as well. Why not bring David Coley in? Like, I think with what he did with the Texans, where everyone wrote them out, and he actually had them not contending, but competing. And then he was beating the likes of some good teams. Like, he beat the Titans, he beat the Chargers. It's like, he had this team competing, and that's crazy to see with that kind of depleted roster. And he was our wide receiver coach back in the day. Have him call and plays with offense, see what happens. I would like that. I didn't really dive too much to see who could be our offensive coordinator, because again, we don't know how that's going to shape up. In my lights, I could see Bieniemy coming back for one more year. That's honestly where I'm standing at it right now. And is that a bad thing? I mean, it's how you look at it, but I don't think so. I mean, the offense isn't going to get worse. And I know that, like, you see that with a lot of fans, like, oh, we need to get rid of Bieniemy, we need a fresh start. It's like, again, is that the fair weather fans? Like, have you been a fan for KC for your whole life? Because, man, it's like you're taking what we have for granted right now, that you want to quick switch, in which I get it, because I do see where we do need a fresh start too. But who's to say he can't add new tricks up his sleeve and all that as well? Andy Reid's done it for the last, 30, 40 years while he was in the league. Like, come on now. Like, anyone can always adjust their game. And definitely if he wants to add a head coaching experience and try to up it, he would. And there's not other offensive coordinators as good as him. So if we need him for one more year, I would love to take him. But the fans who are saying, oh, get rid of him, he's the reason we're losing games, the reason why we lost the playoffs and all that, that was solely just, offense to execute the plays. I don't want to say he called the wrong plays, because we don't know what happened. What if those plays work? Again, that's the type of league we're in. If those plays work, he looks like a genius. If Mahomes completes passes, if routes are ran correctly, if Tyreek can break Eli Apple's tackle and he's in the end zone, it's a different story. Like, literally, this game is of inches, and we're writing someone's job off right now. Like, I get it, but I don't. Like, you live in the moment, but also, too, don't take for granted what you have right now. Eric B. has been our best offensive coordinator, yes, over a Doug Peterson, over a Matt Nagy as well. Like, that's just how I feel. And I feel like he's going to be a great head coach. Just unfortunate his time isn't now. But I'd be happy with either or, honestly. And it's crazy to see, because on social media, when you're seeing more people calling for Bieniemy's job over Spags, you don't hear nothing about Spags nowadays, which is crazy. And like I mentioned in my reaction video, when we lost the Bengals, I don't think the defense was the reason we lost. But again, also, they weren't the reason we won, and they were the reason why we struggled in most games throughout the season as well. And it's like Spags is under the limelight right now as well, which is crazy to hear. But it's crazy to hear people are calling for Bieniemy's job more than Spags' job. But hey, I know it's the Chiefs' offense is what lets KC wins games, and when you feel like it's at a stagnant point, you feel like the world's coming to win. But it's nowhere near that. So it'll be interesting to see who our OC will be next year, and we'll just have to wait. I think we'll have an answer within the next coming weeks. I'd say 2 at tops. I think we'll hear whether they will want to sign him back next week, maybe even this week. This week is still very young as well. Or if they want to pursue different options. But we'll hear about that in the coming days as well. Now, I do want to go back on one thing I did mention, and it is Spags as well. And we all talk about we want a fresh start and a fresh change. And if there's anything that needs it, I think it's the defense. We've seen Spags scheme for the last 2 years, and it hasn't been highly efficient at all. And if you look at his track record as well, he's had successful years, but now he's leaning towards, he's had more unsuccessful years than successful years. He does have good schemes. Some of them work, but they don't consistently work. That's where I would like to see a fresh start. And there's good names out there, and one that comes to mind for me, and I know it won't happen because of everything that's going on, but he ain't gonna get a head coaching job, so might as well give him a defensive coordinator job. And I'd love to bring Brian Flores in. Man, I think that'd be a great hire. I think he would have this defense turned around in an instant. He has that winning mentality. I don't think he has that issue with players as what everyone is perceiving it out to be. But hey, who knows? And also, too, the one I've been calling for in the instant, Vic Fangio's still out there as well. Like, we've seen how well defenses he puts up against Kansas City. If he had a team with the offense, he would not have had all these losses against Kansas City as well. His defense has always been there against us, and I think that's a cool thing to see as well. And I don't know, like, if that's where I want my fresh turnaround, it would be, I think we've had enough of Spags. But then again, you don't know. It's unfortunate because I wish we would have heard something now coaching-wise on how things move around, and I feel like Casey's kind of prolonging it, and I don't know if that's beneficial now or if it's going to hurt us in the long run. But we'll have to wait and see is that as well. But also, too, there was a signing they did make, which was quite surprising. The only vacancy I knew we had was a linebacking coach, but they actually kind of made a switch. They brought in the Jaguars defensive coordinator, Joel Coleman. I think I said that right. I'm gonna bank I said it right. But Joe Coleman, he's been with the Jaguars since 2016 through 2020, and he's actually been very successful. Actually, in his 15 years in the NFL, he's always had a successful defense, which is great to hear as well. He'll be our new D-line coach this year, but that doesn't mean Brendan Daly's fired. Brendan Daly, he'll be moved to the linebackers, which I don't know. Like, I would have preferred someone like an Antonio Pierce coming in or a Derek Johnson getting his first crack at it and see how that goes. But hey, it's a linebacking position group. We'll see how that pans out. But I do love the move from the D-line coach because our D-line is where our biggest money is spent, and they were terrible. They were abysmal, way too unproductive for almost over $200 million on that line as well. Let's see if he works his magic or not. I don't expect Frank Clark to be back, but we'll have to wait and see. I know Chris Jones will be there. Get him back to his 15-plus sacks. I don't think that's too much to say. Chris Clark, I combine the names. You know what I mean. Chris Jones, he's still in his prime, regardless of what anyone says. He can easily be a 10-plus, 15-plus sack guy. We've seen it. If he could just stick him in the middle and we can get primary rushers as well, that'd be exciting to see. And I also love to see, too, they brought people in for workouts, and they brought in the former Kansas City native Shane Ray. I do not know what he brings. I remember in the draft as well that he was one of my favorite pass rushers, but he was also a 4-3 pass rusher, and he doesn't really fit a Spags scheme. So that gets a lot of people to thinking, it's like, wait, is Spags gone? Or is he more open to adjusting his defense? Either or. If he's more open to adjusting his defense and finding any way to be successful, I will keep Spags. At least he's showing me he's trying to find ways to develop his game and win all around. As for Shane Ray, I don't know if he's a point on this team or not. He didn't get signed whatsoever, but it's exciting to see bringing in a rusher like that. Definitely a 4-3 rusher, because it lets them know they're ready to develop. They're actually looking for rushers, and that's cool to see. Even if they did sign Shane Ray, I don't think he would make it past training camp anyways. But like I said, look out for the little pieces like that, because it shows you what Kansas City is going to be looking for in the future going into the 2022 season. And it's going to be huge moving forward as well, because they're going to need a lot of pieces on this defense to change, even offensive side of the ball too, because this league is going to keep adjusting. That means KC needs to keep adjusting as well. And if KC wants to keep being elite, they need to keep being on top of their game. So these small pieces, even though they're minor right now, they'll pay dividends in the long run if they pay off, because not a lot of people are paying attention to a Joe Cullen move like that, because he is a good Jaguars defensive coordinator, but we've watched the Jaguars as of late, and it's been, oh, they've been a shitty team. But this is the same team that held the Buffalo Bills to 6 points. And I think that might have been why they're like, oh, we got to bring him in, because we know we're going to have our challenges against the Bills. And if he could scheme up something right to where we can hold the Bills, that's going to pay dividends. And I've said it all along too. The offense shouldn't always have to be scoring 31, 38, 40 points. If you can give Mahomes a defense that can hold a team under 20 and he can just score 24 to 28 points, that's great. There's no reason our offense should go off every time, even though I love to see it. It's great for ratings. We all love to see Mahomes throwing 4 or 5 touchdowns, but it shouldn't have to be a necessity. And if a defense could come through, that'd be great to see. And I think these minor moves can pay good in the long run. With that, thank you, Chiefs Kingdom, for checking in to my quick Chiefs report. We didn't have too much news breaking in, but I did want to give you guys a quick wrap-up of the week as well. I'm sorry I didn't really get too many videos out this week. I wasn't feeling my best self, kind of under the weather, but I will be back with more daily videos. I have something working up where I'm going to kind of mock my dream offseason, what I want to happen for KC. It's an realistic thing that I think could really happen, so stay tuned. I'll start working on that here soon. I should have it out within the next couple of days, and I want you guys to check it out and see how I did, see if you like my predictions, see if you think the players will fit, or if I'm just too crazy and I'm just shooting for the stars. I am shooting for the stars, but in the long run, I think you guys will like what I'm going to put out. But with that being said as well, thank you for checking back into the channel. Please do be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. And without further ado, I am taking out. Peace.